The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Jinno Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. Man, we are back for another episode, and this one I am personally going to enjoy very much, but I'll tell you why. In the meantime, we are four guys in four different cities, thereabouts, coming together for our passion and love for NBA hoops. My name is Mo. I'm in the West Coast, and joining me as well is Brad Graham. Hey, Brad, man, it's nice to see you here in my house.
Thanks, Mo. Brad's been bouncing around all over the place, huh?
Yeah,
You.
we'll
On the road. Brad Graham on the road.
That's right.
The Twitter account name is no accident.
That's right. Boy, you sound good too here. It's good stuff, man. In New York City is Chris Savage. In studio there, Metro Manila, Philippines, Jinno Rufino. Fellas, we have a big show ahead, so let's go ahead and start it. Chris, I'm going to say point guard duties for you here in quarter number one. You got 12 minutes. What's up?
How apropos. All right, my little deviants out there. Let's talk about the best position in the NBA, the point guard spot. And just when you thought the play at the number one couldn't get any better, it did. We saw a fantastic flurry in the month of February across the board from the top point guards across the league. And I'm not just talking about the usual suspects like Curry and Westbrook. Clearly, they were up there too, and we'll get into that. I'm talking about the top 10 point guards in the league averaged at least 20 points or more. Put it in perspective. There's 20 players in the league overall this season scoring 20 points or more. Well, in the month of February, 10 point guards averaged 20 or more. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. Now, here's an amazing thing. Stats are great. Trust me, stats are great. Mo, you know better than anyone stats are great.
Sure.
Every single one of those point guards, their team had a winning record. Okay, now obviously some of them on or some of them are on super teams. They're going to have winning records anyway. So let's take it another step further. Almost every single one of them, their records were improved of their winning percentage going into that month. The exceptions were Kyrie Irving on the Cavaliers and Russell Westbrook on the Thunder, who already had higher winning percentage. So
Speaking of Thunder, I don't want to ruin yours, but Derrick Rose averaged 21.3 in the month. Did they have a winning record? The Bulls?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Then.
Sorry, stats.
Right.
You call me on the stats. I gotta. No, but still, I mean, to have Rose at 21.3 though, Derrick Rose, man, even he got into the party. Just shows again how dominant the point guard stuff was.
Absolutely. So I just want to run through. Let's talk about the top two, and we're going to talk about all of them. But the top two, we always talk about these guys, but it's well deserved. Steph Curry, just when you thought he couldn't get any better. 37 points for the month almost. 37 points. He only shot 55% and 54% behind the arc, though. He's really slacking, though. Unbelievable with 37 points a game. And Russell Westbrook, though the Thunder, there was a blemish to the record, 25 points, 12 and a half rebounds, almost 9 assists, almost just a rebound or so away from a triple-double for the month. Mo, I know you love that.
That's right.
I'm going to go through a
love
list.
that.
The point guards, they won 3 players of the week, Isaiah Thomas, Kyle Lowry, and Steph Curry. If it wasn't for Steph Curry, Damian Lillard would have won Player of the Week, maybe Player of the Month. You had Reggie Jackson average over 20. Isaiah Thomas, of course, had a huge month, and the Celtics had a huge month. Lowry, Paul, Curry, Wall, Westbrook, Kemba Walker, unbelievable, and then Derrick Rose. So, guys, I know we talk about Steph Curry. I know we talk about Russell Westbrook. Tell me who else impressed you this past month, because there were so many point guards. Let's hear about it.
Oh, I love the little guy, man. So, I mean, I'm with you. It's almost like a collective thing. I can't really pinpoint one guy that I really like, but let's give credit to Drew Holiday coming off the bench, 19-7 in the month of February. Your BFF, D'Angelo Russell, 17 points in the month of February. Jordan Clarkson, while he's a shooting guard, but he's still up there, 17 points. So, I mean, I like Drew Holiday. I like. John Wall was really impressive in the month of February. He's got his Wizards kind of buzzing again. Chris Paul was fantastic. I think he came in fourth in the point guard scoring for the month. So, and he was 24-9 or practically 24-10. So he was doubling for the entire month of February. So yeah, man, I'm actually great that you pointed this out. It wasn't even on my radar how dominant they were. And when you pointed it out, and I look at the stats here, man, it's super impressive.
Mo, I'm disappointed in you, Mo. You forgot a name. It's Rajon Rondo. What about Rondo? 13 assists per game in the month of February. Come on, you got to give your boy some props there.
Sure. I mean, even Zach LaVine, Goran Dragic did 15-7 in the month of Feb. I mean, yeah, the scoring numbers are not high, but I mean, just the improved play from some of these guys. February was awesome for them. Too bad it was less than 30 days.
But February was awesome for Dame Dollar. I think. I mean, when he got snubbed from the All-Star game, he took it personally, and he just went to town in the second half of the month. And I just love the way this guy played. I mean, before the All-Star break, we said that he was having a career year, and he's proven it. I mean, he's been absolutely outstanding. He's doing Steph-like stuff. Not quite, but he's right there. Right. Another guy that I want to point out also is Kemba Walker has been pretty fantastic as well. So
okay, so now aside of the ones that we were so excited about, why is this happening? Why was February, a massive month for point guards?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll jump in on that one, Mo. It's as these point guards go, these teams go. There's a reason why it's the most important position in the NBA. Now, whether it's the evolution or cyclical, and I want to get into that as well. But when it comes time to crunch time, the best players are going to have to step up, and these teams have to jockey for position. And a lot of these teams, their best players are the point guards, or at least the X factor, the most important player on the team, and you're just seeing the level step up so guys can start getting into playoff positions. I think it just comes down to that is the reason why.
Do you think possibly, maybe Brad, maybe you can answer this. It's a little bit of jealousy. Like, okay, so I'm going up against Steph tonight. I'm not going to let Steph do 40 on me without me getting mine. Dillard, I'm going against Lillard. I'm going Westbrook. I'm going against Lowry. I'm going against Kyrie, Walker. Hey, I got to get mine too. And then all of a sudden it's collective. They're going up against each other. Everybody's stats are raising.
These guys have massive egos,
Sure.
huge egos. It's very competitive. The guys are all out there to prove themselves night in and night out. All the guys you mentioned usually play the big TV games over the weekend. And they're all chasing Steph, and they're all sort of trying to carve out their little niche in the NBA. And they all know that their team's only ever going to go as far as they're able to take them. Now, one point guard you didn't mention is actually LeBron James, who is a point guard. Whether
nice, and GM, and head coach, and GM.
And all
nice,
that. Sure. But I think what's also happened, too, is Steph's ultimately elevated the position for everybody. Sure. He's given everyone the excuse to gun. He's given everyone the excuse to sort of look for their own as well as incorporate their teammates. And that's what we're seeing here with the point guards. We're seeing sort of the playmakers evolve into scorers and point producers and everything. And it's no longer the small forwards or the power forwards or whatever who these teams are looking to sort of power them ahead in the standings. It's their point guards now, and they really are the most important players on the court, as you said, Chris. And we live in the golden age of point guards, as everybody knows, and we're seeing a whole different style of play now because of them. And coaches realize this, and the games are getting smarter. And as the games get smarter and the defenses adapt, these plays become even more important because they're the ones who have the best ability to react and to set up everybody else and to find the easy hoops and to basically involve the big men when they see fit or when they see the opening. So, whether they're creating for their teammates or gunning for their own, we can just all sit back and say, look, man, February's one for the record books, and it all begins and really ends with what Steph's doing. So I don't know if these point guards can get any better. It seems like this is going to be a ceiling, but the truth is, every time I think they've hit a ceiling, they just bust through it like the ceiling didn't exist. So,
Brad, I'll ask you this. Are the days of the pass first point guard over? Is that it? I mean, we've seen these major shooting, scoring point guards that are hybrid in so many ways. Is that over? You've spoken about that before.
No, I think we're seeing the adaptation of the game so that these guys are becoming so effective. And Steve Nash was kind of given all the credit in the world for being a playmaker and a pass first guy, but we forget that he was a dead-eye shooter. So Steve Nash was actually Phoenix's best weapon, whether he was shooting or scoring, and that's what we're seeing from these guys: Lillard, Westbrook, Curry, anyone who's an elite point guard now. is essentially not only their team's best scorer, but also their best setup artist. So being able to just sort of break away from the sort of John Stockton limitation, I think has helped the game and opened the game up and created a whole new way to sort of, create these dynamic sort of offenses, and ball movements improved because of it, because you can't actually, trap these guys. They'll just find someone else, they'll move. They're such impressive ball handlers. Kyrie Irving, Steph, you name them, they can break their guy down, break down a double team now. So, it's just one of those things that we as fans get to enjoy this.
Let me ask you guys this, because I asked some of these players when I get a chance to interview them, these point guards, whether it's John Wall, Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas, and so on and so forth. I asked them who their favorite player was growing up and who they emulate and all that. And the name that always comes up is Allen Iverson. And I was just wondering if you think that somebody like when AI busted into the scene, that somebody who was supposed to be the size of a point guard, but he was really a shooting guard. So he was kind of like that guy.
Well, Jinno, to be specific, he didn't have a definition. That's why they called him shooting guard or played him there. He was a barrier breaker in many ways, like Magic, like KG. And that's what we're seeing. And you're right. I think these guys are all being inspired by the fact that they grew up, 10 years straight watching Iverson carve players up. And they, size didn't prevent him specifically from doing what he needed to get to where he needed to go. And you can actually build an offense around a super talented small guy.
Oh, I mean, there's no question about that, the impact of someone like Allen Iverson. And we spoke about it before, that positions in general in the NBA are kind of dissipating, withering away. Right. So, we're talking about point guards here, and it's just people listed as point guards, but very few of them necessarily play as a point guard. So, dead on, and we're 5 years away from pretty much no positions whatsoever, and we won't even be defining some of these guys as a point guard.
Right, we thought Jason Kidd was going to be some sort of evolutionary point guard, like the second coming of Magic, and he was great. But then even Jay Kidd learned how to shoot because they realized there's more value in having, a game that's multifaceted. And Jinno, when you were talking to these people about their sort of love of Iverson, were they saying that he was directly influencing their game, or was it a case of they were just using that as the springboard to sort of find their own place?
I think it's both. I mean, just the impact that he had in so many different ways, not just on the basketball court, but just the way he was. Which is strange because all these guys are nice guys. I mean, AI wasn't exactly known to be a nice guy, so it was kind of strange in that sense.
Wait, did Iverson stand you up, Jinno?
No,
was he not a nice guy?
AI and I are cool.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
So you were the one he was out to. Right. So let me get this correct. So when Iverson went through Asia, you and him would go to Macau, gamble till 4 a.m. Sit around, have some drinks by the pool. That was you who was keeping AI out till 5 a.m.
Not Macau. I'll say that.
I'll tell you where they didn't go.
He did come here.
Practice. They didn't go to practice.
They didn't go to practice.
Not a game practice.
But which is kind of strange to me though, because I mean AI obviously with that whole practice thing and all that kind of stuff. I mean you wouldn't really think that he would be a role model to these up and comers, to these point guards now. But
he was himself. I think that's the takeaway, isn't it? True. That he was never afraid to be himself. True. And the coach said, "You're a point guard." He said, "Screw that. I'm an offensive player. Try and stop me." And so he was carving guys up. And I think that's where Steph might be the next evolution or the next sort of stage of that progression, is that we're seeing a guy, and Mo's watched Steph closer than anyone else. I mean, what are we seeing? You think that Steph is kind of the continuation, that he's this Nash-Iverson hybrid?
Yeah, but, even though as influential as Steph's game currently is, if you take the top 10 players in the NBA, maybe 2 guys are point guards, Steph and Westbrook. Yeah. Everybody else is still the traditional big guy.
Yeah, but that's 2 of the top 5. That's what dictates the game.
No, I'm saying 2 of the top 10. Take top 10 players. I can't name them right now, but if you go LeBron, Davis, Durant, Harden, there's only still 2 point guards there, right? Kawhi. So I think Steph is just kind of influencing them, but not in a way where all the best players are going to be point guards. They just had a great month, but if you think about it, it's just a great month.
But plus the fact, though, that you look at the stars in the NBA, they're probably small forwards, the franchise guys, and then you have the bigs and so on and so forth. But the point guard position is just so deep. Almost every single team out there has a quality point guard.
There's no question about
it. And we can celebrate it, but the best basketball players still, aside from Steph and Westbrook, still the big guys. Or the mid-sized guys, I guess, if you could say.
Yeah, but don't take away from their spectacular February. They had the sensational February.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was a great month, but I mean, come on.
We're celebrating right here. Yay, point
we were trying to celebrate it. Then Mo started, raining on everyone's parade.
Hey, let's celebrate the little guys.
How can I am a small man. Did you see me yesterday at the league? We got to get out of here. All right, let's get out. It is quarter number 1.
Thank you, point guard. Thank you for being great.
And great for point guarding that first quarter. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have quarter number 2. It's the Full Court Report.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Hanson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import award?
I won Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you do?
I'm not changing nothing.
Tell us, Lelen, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We are at quarter number 2 now, and let's go ahead and give Brad Graham his 12 minutes to direct our conversation coming up here. Brad, you got 12. What's up, my friend?
Yeah, thanks, Mo. I don't know if you guys caught this, but Charles Barkley made some rather ridiculous remarks this week after thanking the Warriors for being a breath of fresh air in the NBA. He went ahead and called most of the NBA awful basketball this year and basically said that unless Golden State is playing the Clippers, the Cavs, the Thunder, or the Spurs, he basically is not going to watch a game from start to finish. He just says that he loves basketball. He says basketball right now isn't very good, and there's really only 5 teams that are worth watching from the tip to the final buzzer. Now, I just think that this is one of the most absurd things that Barkley's ever said. I think this is
terrible.
Just
Terrible.
nuts. Now, what I want to kind of, I guess, find out from you guys is how is it possible that he could make a claim like this and believe it? You know, have you guys seen basketball this year and thought at some stage that this has been unwatchable basketball, even if it's been Brooklyn versus Philadelphia? Has it been unwatchable at any stage? Or is the NBA from top to bottom more exciting? We just highlighted all these point guards who are having a sensational time, you know, carving each other up. Is Barkley just not paying attention, or what the hell is going on here?
Maybe he's just trying to say something outrageous because, you know, again, we live in this age where media guys have to say something outrageous so they can kind of make some headlines. Because, I mean, in fact, when I look at how many games are left, 20-something games, I feel like, boy, where has the season gone? It's been going by so fast. There's so many great storylines to follow. Yes, obviously Golden State, record-breaking. Steph, record-breaking. But, I mean, you could take the rookie class and find so many interesting things there with Kristaps and with Cat and with, you know, even maybe marginal guys like Miles Turner I'm enjoying watching right now, and, you know, your Booker and Mario Hezonja has been playing well.
But no, isn't it interesting, though, that we spent
small market teams.
Right, we spent a whole year complaining about how uncompetitive the East was. Now the East is super competitive. There are storylines from top to bottom. All of a sudden, if you don't know how to watch the NBA and find, you know, it watchable, if you don't know what you're doing when it comes to actually being an audience member, I just don't think you're watching the NBA from the right point of view, the right vantage point. You don't quite understand what's going on inside the NBA.
And it's complete. I mean, the gameplay's been great, and the drama, like the side stories, have been fantastic. You know, seeing the Cavs be successful but struggle because of chemistry, and you know, and seeing them healthy.
Well, he called the Cavs watchable, but only when they're going against the Warriors. So it's one of these things that he seems to be sort of obsessed with the fact that the Warriors are gunning for this, you know, the regular season record. Steph's on fire, all this stuff. But Barkley's been around the game for 30-odd years. To say that the NBA is unwatchable now, it feels like, where was he back in the early 2000s when the defense took over and nobody liked the Wallace Pistons versus, you know, the Duncan Spurs, and everyone complained. Right, that felt like it was more unwatchable than today. I reckon the scores are running up now. I reckon that there are more teams, more exciting. Like Boston's such a good story. Brad Stevens and what he's done there is definitely worth paying attention to. I mean, the fact that the Rockets are an actual sideshow, I think, makes the NBA more exciting, more interesting. And the fact that it's unpredictable in many ways, you know, despite the fact that the stars often can, you know, govern wins, but there are so many stars scattered across the league. Who doesn't want to tune in to watch Anthony Davis put up 59 and 20? What is Barkley talking about here?
That's not even a playoff team. Second worst team in the league's got high ratings because it's Kobe's last season. Kevin Durant's back from injury, contract year, having a monster
Paul
season.
George is back and healthy, and it's good.
Crazy talk.
Jinno, is the NBA unwatchable? What the hell's going on?
You know what? This has been one of the best regular seasons I've watched in quite some time. And for the Lakers to suck this bad, and for me to say that, it says a lot. I mean, I watch as much games.
Hey Mo, can you
as
play
I
that
can.
back for me? I want to hear that again.
I'm gonna go to record that. It's gonna be a drop on the show.
Yeah,
but I think what he's referring to, though, a little bit, at least not fully, but a little bit, are the teams that you know that are out there that are not trying to do well. The teams that are trying to tank, the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, to a certain extent, the Los
Right,
Angeles
but
Lakers.
Gino, 5 teams are watchable and the rest is unwatchable
I think
for a whole game?
I think he's just exaggerating a little bit. I mean, he's being Charles Barkley. He's just doing Charles Barkley stuff. But
but shouldn't
I
there
don't
be
get it.
some sense of understanding where the game is and where it's at or what's going on? Like, I mean, to say that DeMarcus Cousins and the Kings aren't watchable from start to finish, you don't know if he's going to take an air swing at Steven Adams or pull back from knocking him out. I mean, the whole point is that anything can happen on any given night in any given game. I mean, the whole point to the NBA is the excitement is built based on not only the hype machine, but also on the fact that these guys are all superstar athletes. Stats can pop up. I mean, Draymond can put up a triple-double. You just don't quite know what's going to happen and where. And to say this, I just, again, shook my head and it just jumped out at me and I just thought, wow. I mean, Chris, has basketball in New York been unwatchable this year? What's going on?
Obviously not, but I'll take it from another viewpoint. Now, I don't agree with Charles Barkley, but the viewpoint, and maybe this is mentality, I don't know what this fat bastard's thinking about, but there are 2 teams really, and maybe we could say 3 or 4, but there's really 2 teams at the top where everyone has in their mind frame that they're just going to steamroll everyone, dominate, and then when they play each other, then it's going to be World War III or whatever, and that's about it. So maybe that's taking away from him that he looks at these other teams and says, what's the point? I don't know his mentality, but maybe that's the other viewpoint. What I will say, though, this is a very entertaining year because of the East. That's one of the main reasons the East is so competitive. There is a good rookie class. You do have someone like Porzingis in New York, love him or hate him, think he's overhyped or whatever. So this is a very entertaining year, and I think the NBA has been entertaining really since 2008, 2009, is continually doing it each and every year after a tough spell in the really the mid 2000s. I think this is the closest we've come to the 80s basketball in a long time, and that was the most entertaining product.
And taking that even further, the whole idea was back then we had multiple tiers of teams, multiple levels of competition. There were always going to be the contenders, the top 5. There was always going to be those guys who wanted to break into that group. There was always going to be the fringe playoff teams. There was always going to be the cellar dwellers. I mean, you don't get Golden State without Philadelphia. I mean, that's just the spectrum in which the world of basketball and competitive sports operate. And what's interesting is that Barkley said that he wants to see more competitive games because we're not getting that right now. Last time I checked, Damian Lillard in that backcourt that he's got up in Portland is not only super exciting and competitive, but they can cut down anyone on any given night. And just this whole thing, again, the idea that the NBA isn't watchable just cracked me up, made me laugh, made me a little sad for Barkley. I thought, hang on, does he need to be checked into some sort of asylum here? Because this guy just shouldn't be allowed to make these, shoot from the hip comments. And
but we're talking about
we should be held to a higher standard. He should be held to a higher standard.
Yeah, I agree, but we're talking about it. He's more of a sideshow in a way, entertainment than, we see entertainment compared to analysts, just like we see on news channels, more entertainment than actually hard news. That's what he is. And he gets wrapped up in these interviews, says something off the hip, and then because he's so stubborn, like he was as a player, he sticks by it, whether he believes it or not, and he almost wants to throw it in the face, like, hey guys, I make all this money doing a basketball show, and I don't even really have to watch it. That's how good I am. So I think that's Barkley. We're talking about it, point proven. He proved his point.
Right, but what I would like to see Barkley do is pick up the phone, call his friend Michael Jordan and say, I think your team's terrible, I don't watch them, and I never want to hear about the Charlotte Hornets ever again.
He already did that. He and Jordan and him didn't speak for a year because Jordan's such a little baby. And
right, or super competitive and does a lot of criticism. Sure. I get it. I mean, look, and Barkley says that his whole point, or the job of the media, is to essentially promote the NBA, and he says that you can't promote a competition that isn't competitive. I just think that's absurd, and I'm going to now switch to a team that is not only competitive right now, but has actually made themselves a lot more watchable, and that's the Washington Wizards. I think John Wall and that team out in the Capitol has done some pretty impressive things. What's interesting now is they've climbed back to 30-30. They're on a 4-game winning streak, but they're actually only 4 or 5 games out of being the top spot in the Southeast. Is it possible that Washington can get ahead of Miami and win the Southeast? Is this beyond the realm of possibilities? And how do we feel about John Wall and the Wiz right now?
Well, I don't know about the whole Miami thing, and this is the thing we have with the East also, who's going to be up, who's going to be down. What I do like is the way they're playing, especially this time of year. I do like the way John Wall is playing. If you remember the beginning of the season, he got off to a slow start. He's had to carry this team on his back at times. He's really starting to show maturity as a leader, not just as a talented player, being an all-star, but being a leader. I think this team has a good a chance as any as kind of those Pistons and teams down there to make the playoffs, whether they will or not. I do like what I saw out of Bradley Beal recently. I think this team has the makings of a team in the next couple of years, and we keep on saying this to be a solid team, but I think this year they could prove a point here. And I think John Wall, it all comes down to him. We spoke about the point guards before. It all comes down to what he's going to do over the next 5-6 weeks.
Right. Well, Chris, right now, John Wall is putting up 21.1 points and 9.8 assists per game. He's been considered one of the 15 best players in basketball. I think a case can even be made that he might be, one of the dozen best in basketball, depending on how you feel. And so what's interesting, though, is as great as the Wiz are, they're ninth in points per game. They're 29th in rebounding. They just can't seem to collect those loose balls. They can't seem to get those extra possessions they need. And without those extra possessions, you can't get the ball in John Wall's hands to then create for teammates and do whatever. I mean, he's rebounding.
They need to shore up that power forward position because Marcin Gortat's having a great second half. Since the All-Star break, he's 15-11, 2 blocks, 61% from the field. He's only turned the ball over 4 times since the All-Star break. I mean, it's great performance from
Didn't he have
Gortat's.
20 rebounds the other day?
He had 20 rebounds the other day as well. Right. So he's doing his part. They need a little bit of help there in that position. And then, of course, listen, aside from just making a playoff push, you have to make an impression on KD. I mean, come on. Right. You want him to come home, right? So right now they're half a game out of the playoffs. We've seen the Bulls already drop off. But again, in the East, anything can change. I still think they're going to get in and take a spot maybe from Indiana or Charlotte, but I definitely see them in the playoff picture. But they're going to have to play well.
Do we like Markieff? What do you guys think of Markieff? Do we like him?
I think Markieff would be a nice addition. It's going to be a nice addition to this team. And one thing also during the All-Star weekend, John Wall was saying that he expected things to turn around after the All-Star break. He said so. He mentioned stuff about health. He mentioned stuff about. I tried to ask him about excuse me, the departure of Paul Pierce and if that played into effect at all, with the leadership ability or capabilities of the Wiz, and he said it had nothing to do with Paul Pierce's departure. He said there's just a few things that they need to iron out, and health was one of them. So if they're healthy, and which they have been a little bit this in the second half, I think like he said during the All-Star weekend, they expect things to turn around. So I think they will have a nice chance to get to the top 8.
Yeah, right, and they've got real motivation to achieve here. Like Mo said, they have to be conscious of the fact that their record is going to be their best selling point for someone like KD to at least consider them as a destination once free agency comes up. Because right now, you've got to be looking at what they're offering, and they're not actually offering all that much. And unless they can secure a playoff spot, unless John Wall continue this form, and unless, he seriously looks at this season as being sort of his gateway into the national team, it really doesn't seem like, the future is as bright as we first thought going into this year, but that shouldn't also take away from the fact that right now the Wiz are great, and they're impressive. I think, they're worth checking out. Unlike what Charles Barkley says, I think the Wizards are watchable, and John Wall is the big reason why. And, there's nothing wrong with watching a guy dart around the court and do all the things that he's doing. And, again, it's the month of point guards. John Wall's been impressive as anybody.
Well, speaking of watchable, I watched that game today because of 2 reasons. John Wall, and they played the Wolves, and because of Cat. I love Big Cat. I love watching him. So you want to talk about not watchable. BS, man. That game with 2 teams not so great in records, I still watched. So NBA is a very great product.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you got to get out of here. When we come back, we have the halftime show. You listen to the Full Court Report. Back after this. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
We're back, and welcome to halftime on the Full Court Report. This is where we move away from basketball and talk a little pop culture. Now, today's topic, because we brought up Allen Iverson earlier and how he influenced so many of today's players, we're going to talk about our personal influences, not basketball related, growing up that really shaped some of our childhood into our adulthood. So we're going to go around the block here, around the corner, and get each of our influences. I'm going to start with you, Brad, the cultural critic here, and get your influences. What do you got?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm going to just go ahead here and offer 2 influences. One related to my musical influences, and that was West Side Connection, where my friend Matt in high school gave me Bow Down. Yeah, man, that album just changed my life. I didn't quite know what gangster rap was, and then I guess that sort of landed in my lap. And after that, the floodgates opened, and I couldn't get enough. Exactly. But what I really want to share, given that this is halftime and it's confessional, and we always like to embarrass ourselves, I'm going to say that Salma Hayek had the biggest influence on my female tastes. The very voluptuous Salma Hayek got me really into Hispanic and Latino women, and man, I've never looked back. I mean, they've been the flavor of the month turned into the flavor of the decade, and so yeah, man, that's where I stand. That's how I feel, and we can thank Salma for how I feel as a man.
Lovely.
Right. Jinno, what do you got?
Wait, what's the best Salma Hayek scene or movie that you remember?
Look, let's just look Desperado without a question, because because as back in '95 when I first caught that, it was game over.
Okay.
Many a man milk has been spilled.
All right.
So Jinno, what about you?
Oh man, mine sounds like such a kiddie thing after that one, but well, I'm not gonna go to Star Wars because that's obvious. One of the things that I've growing up. It's one of my favorite things as a kid. But another thing that kind of started my love affair with cars is actually Knight Rider. And I remember being a kid.
Boy, we were just talking about how awful that show was. We were just right before the show started.
Dude,
like, that show sucked.
There was an awesome show. What are you talking about? You have a car.
He just loves Kit, man. He's a Kit man.
Okay, Kit. Yeah, it's really just Kit. I didn't care about Michael Knight. I didn't care about him. I just wanted to see the car jumping around, going on two wheels.
Jinno,
did
you see Ted 2? Did you see Kit in Ted 2?
No, I haven't even seen Ted 2 yet.
Oh, if you're a fan, if you're a Kid fan, you have to watch Ted 2.
But I remember, bugging my parents, wanting to go to Universal Studios and just wanting to look at, thinking that Kit was real. I really thought that Kit really existed. Right. But yeah, I mean that was it for me. I mean, I always rushed home from school to watch that as often as I could.
Well, truth be told, I would rather choose the 18 pedophilia van over a Kit. But hey, Mo Twister, what do you got? If you want to whisper through this one,
this is gonna be. I don't know. It was hard for me to think of something that really influenced me. Then I think about what I wanted to be growing up. So I probably have to be Ronald Reagan, the president. As a child, I wanted to be not that I was a fan of his politics, because I was too young to really understand it. But I have an obsession with presidents of nations. So I would write letters to the White House, and I'd get these brochures in response, and I would think that they were actually handwritten, letters from the president. So it's always been a big thing. And even till this very day, now at 38, 39 years old this year, when I meet and interview a president of any nation, it's just always such a really big deal for me, and that kind of stems from those days.
All right, cool, man. So I mean, that's actually a pretty
thanks
good
for
thing.
killing conversation, Mo.
Yeah, I know.
What's going on?
No, because even till now, my
Salma Hayek pick sounds ridiculous.
Okay, hold on. Okay, fine. Let me give you my best Jack material. I would say maybe one of the Baywatch girls, an Erica Eleniak, or Jenny Garth.
You can tell us you want to be a
90210.
train conductor. We're not here to judge you. It's
Yeah.
just, hey, you pick presidents and you made it all kind of political and formal and,
Sure. All right.
Whatever, man.
Chris, save the conversation. What do you got?
I'll go as we finish up here. Two quick ones. The first one's Yo MTV Raps, late 80s, early 90s, helped me become such a hip-hop head. Back then, it was hard to find hip-hop on the radio, so just rushing home and watching Yo MTV Raps on MTV was such a big deal to me. And then
the revolution was televised.
Yes. And the other one for me is what turned me into the fiend I am today. This is real influence, not your little Jack show guys. It's the illegal cable boxes that you hook up to the TV that I would stay home from school pretending I was sick, and you get all the friggin' nudie channels with the soft car. You couldn't see any penetration, but it'd be a lot of humping. And young Chris Savage was just so enamored by what was going on. Believe me, I was very active in what was going on too. The fiend I am today really started. The roots were right there, and the enamor, the infatuation. It still hasn't ended to this day. I've grown up from that since watching that kind of softcore stuff to watching some really hardcore stuff. That's just the way it is.
Thanks, Chris. I'm sure everyone wants to hear this, man. What's going on?
Listen, open book. That's just the way it is.
Okay.
That's how I am. So great halftime, guys. Obviously, you guys are all. What's wrong with you? So cool, man. Let's move on to the second half.
Sure. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have more of the Full Court Report. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is our second half now, third quarter, my quarter, so I can put until 12 minutes up on the clock for myself. And let's see if we can direct this to some entertaining conversation. Guys, one of the big stories that came out, the drama side of the NBA over the past week, was this little, I don't know if it's called beef, between Amar'e Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony over Linsanity from, geez, must be like 3 years ago.
It's a love triangle.
Yeah, 4 years ago already. I don't know why they're kind of bringing these things out, but Amar'e said that certain teammates or possibly teammate wasn't really cool with all the attention that Jeremy Lin was getting back in those days. Now, I was in New York during Linsanity, and I saw a ton of games at Madison Square Garden, and people were kind of really pumped up about it. The city was kind of alive, and, they made it to the playoffs that year. But, again, according to Amar'e, not everybody on that team embraced it. And not everyone was a fan of him being the Knicks' newest star. So maybe that led to Jeremy not being on the team because a certain superstar didn't want him back. And that's why he ended up in Houston. So a lot of these arrows were being pointed at Carmelo Anthony without Stoudemire actually saying his name. Carmelo did respond and say, hey, wait a minute. Why wouldn't I embrace Jeremy Lin? Look how I'm embracing Kristaps Porzingis right now. There's nothing different there. So what I wanted to ask you guys, not to talk too much about Linsanity, but to kind of make it more recurrent, how do you think Carmelo is kind of dealing with this whole Kristaps fever, the Godzinga, or all these other kind of names that they're throwing out, where he's no longer kind of the star in that city?
He's sharing his locker room with a unicorn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. When Kevin Durant says, oh, this guy's a unicorn. Oh my God,
I don't remember Kevin Durant saying that about Carmelo, though.
Exactly. So, Chris, let me go to you first. You're in New York. You got the vibe over there. What's the deal here? How is Carmelo making this any different from Linsanity?
Okay. Well, first of all, was Amar'e Stoudemire talking about Baron Davis when he referenced superstars that season on the Knicks? Because I'm not sure. No, I mean, listen. Here, let me take a step back to that year with Jeremy Lin. This is what disturbed me, and it's different from this year. This is what disturbed me about the whole Jeremy Lin, Carmelo Anthony season. Carmelo was out that year. Jeremy Lin, or out during the time Jeremy Lin had his huge surge. And all of a sudden, the narrative changed. Okay, can Carmelo come back and coexist with Jeremy Lin? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can Jeremy Lin coexist when Carmelo comes there? Carmelo is a superstar, and that drove me nuts. I know Jeremy Lin, he was on a hot run. It was a great story, but you could tell talent-wise, his ceiling was not as high as someone like Kristaps Porzingis. Now you have Porzingis. He's a real deal talent. Carmelo identifies that, he knows that. It's a little different there too, but also you got to think he's matured over those couple of years as well, whether he was against Lin or not. He wants to win. He's running out of time in his career. I don't know what winning means for him anyway. It means make the playoffs a couple of years because they're nowhere near a finals team. So I do think it's changed, but I think part of it is because Kristaps is the real deal talent wise, and also let's realize something here.
But Chris, the thing here is also too that Melo's always had a problem sharing the spotlight once he got to the pros. He was never quite comfortable sharing the spotlight.
Doesn't every superstar have a problem and have a little jealousy when someone comes in like that? Why wouldn't they? All these guys have massive egos.
Sure. So what I'm going to say to you is what I think has happened to Melo is I think the best thing is that Phil Jackson came to town and talked to him and managed his ego and helped him understand that by having Porzingis here, it doesn't threaten Melo in any way. What it does is it helps propel Melo, into the spotlight more often. And what it does is it helps his visibility nationwide. More people care about the Knicks now, which means by default they care about Melo. And his reputation's taken a bit of a hit because of things like Linsanity, which isn't necessarily fair on Melo. And I'm not going to play, the defense of Melo here, to the death. I think he's responsible for himself and he knows what he's doing. But for Amar'e to come out, these years later, whatever, and say that one of his teammates or whoever it was in the locker room, felt this particular way, without naming names, I think Amar'e's the one who needs to sort of realize what he's doing is actually harming Amar'e as much as it's harming anyone else. Like, you don't say this about your ex-co-workers or whatever. Like, you're all there to win a championship. You didn't. You failed. You move on. But you don't come out and badmouth people years later. I think that's poor sportsmanship. Right. I think that's the bad way to sort of manage a locker room. I think you hear that now, and if you're in Miami now, you're thinking, well, what's Amar'e going to say about me in 3 years' time? I just don't think that's how you build trust in the locker room. I think Amar'e should know better. I think that if Melo had a problem with Linsanity like he apparently did have, according to the reports at the time, there's a better way to go about it. Melo should have performed better back then. The fact that Linsanity was asked to step in and be the hero speaks more about the Knicks season than it does about actually Linsanity. Again, I just think this is a case of Melo's in a different place at a different time. he doesn't necessarily care anymore whether or not he has to share the stage because he realizes that his time is running out.
Well,
So
can I throw this in? Okay, but again, let's modernize it with maybe another issue going on. You see Kyrie saying he's not very happy in Cleveland.
Sure.
Is this another kind of thing? What we're seeing?
Well, it was his team.
Well, it's not really that it's Carmelo's mature, but maybe, when you have two guys, two stars, and let's just call Jeremy a star at that time, demanding the ball and creating, then that's when your guys are going to get a little bit, where the chemistry is going to be tested a little bit. Porzingis is not a creator; he's just a guy that responds to whatever's going on.
He's a rookie. He's not much of anything.
Absolutely, but Jeremy needed the ball in his hands to be effective, and so does Carmelo, and we see that again now with LeBron and with Kyrie. Right. Is it where the superstar does not want to be in a situation where he's not dominating the ball? James Harden does this in Houston. Everyone else doesn't like it.
If you want to look at Melo's career, and again, that's why I bring this up. When Iverson arrived in Denver, Melo didn't like the fact that he was sharing the scoring opportunities with Iverson. Iverson superseded him in popularity and in terms of playmaking ability, and that meant Melo had to take a backseat to Iverson. And then it was only once Chauncey showed up and Melo was being fed the ball by Chauncey that Melo was happy, and that team made the Western Conference Finals. Melo was motivated. Melo knew that he had a lot to play for. Then he goes to New York. He doesn't have the point guards he needs, but he's okay with that because he's getting his touches. Then Linsanity shows up and the play runs through someone else. And again, it's a case where Melo's always been best served when he's ball heavy, like when he's got the rock in his hands. And when that's not the case...
Is it Melo or is it the superstar? I mean, again, because we're seeing this with LeBron. We see this with James Harden.
It's the superstars.
It's the dominant...
Superstars are egos. It is.
Okay, so how do KD and Westbrook pull it off?
Because they like each other.
Yeah.
They actually genuinely like each other.
Or are we going to hear when KD leaves in OKC? So when KD leaves OKC, are we going to hear next season and 2 years from now?
Hey, he's not Amar'e. He won't do that. He won't throw his teammates under the bus.
All right, Chris, go ahead.
Kyrie's a different story anyway because, I mean, he wants to get out of Cleveland. Have you ever been to Cleveland? It smells like hot dog water. Who the hell wants to go there?
No, but okay, the ball-dominant players is definitely going to be an issue for...
Well, didn't this happen with Shaq and Kobe,
Exactly.
Gino?
Exactly.
Did you live through this?
Exactly, the Shaq and Kobe situation in LA. Both wanted to be the alpha dog, and the town wasn't big enough.
I like the fact that Linsanity and Melo gets compared to Kobe and
I
Shaq.
know. It's a little strange, but because it's also because of the style of play.
That's like me and Mo when we play.
It's the ball dominant style. I mean, there's
one ball.
Westbrook and Durant that doesn't happen often. That you have two guys who like each other, who are both ball dominant players, but they still work it out because they like each other.
Well, that also comes at the cost of the other,
exactly, because they
11
take turns.
guys on that roster.
They take turns going one-on-one, and it becomes a little bit of an issue in that sense. But if you're not a ball dominant guy, like you look at the San Antonio Spurs, you look at the Golden State Warriors, none of them are really ball dominant. The ball moves around a lot, and it works. It works.
Share and share alike.
Keep in mind, Billy Donovan has now changed the system.
That's the issue with Kyrie and LeBron now, and with Melo and Jeremy Lin, and then Shaq and Kobe. And anytime you have two ball-dominant players in one team, it's going to be a problem.
Well, no, listen, Billy Donovan has also changed the system in OKC. He has now set up a system, and he had to get buy-in from Durant, so that comes with maturity too, that there's at least one of them on the floor at all times, because when both of them are out getting rest, the team is a lottery team. They're atrocious. So what that means is there's less time that both of them will be on the court together, but at least one of them will be on the court.
They're both going to get their touches. They're both going to get their looks. Sure.
So even they're changing, and that's the one that the two ball-dominant people were is still working. Billy Donovan wants it to work even more. So there's still an adjustment there. It's adjustment for all these players with egos who want the ball.
But Chris, coming back to Mo's original point, if you have had a coworker that you 3 years later throw under a bus, I mean, this sort of feels to me a bit like Amar'e never got over the fact that someone else stole a bit of his lightning. And
especially after I already robbed him for $100 million and then come back again and smack him across the face.
That's what I don't understand. Like, Amar'e's gotten every opportunity in the world to succeed, and he has done really, really well in the NBA. He's been an All-NBA first-teamer. He's been an All-Star. He's been everything that he's ever wanted to be. And yet somehow some guy shows up, has a great 30-game run, and he's super jealous of that, and he's still talking about it, he's still thinking about it, he's still sharing that with people. I just think Amar'e really just hasn't quite grown up in the way that he should have, or isn't offering the veteran leadership to guys like Justice Winslow in Miami, or whoever it may be that he's now having a say in mentoring. And it's like, I just don't think Amar'e should be talking about this. And to Mo's original point and why he brought this up, I think that this says a lot about Amar'e and who Amar'e is as a teammate, and that's what I don't like about it. It's less about Linsanity and less about Melo.
Oh, okay, and if Kristaps develops quickly, as he is already developing rather quickly, into next year, maybe the year after that, into a legit all-star coming from the Eastern Conference, do you think Melo's going to just take this lightly?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he's at a different place in time, and I think Phil Jackson is able to manage egos as he's done throughout his entire career. Phil Jackson, as we say, has got the capacity to get people to buy into a system, and if Melo takes on a specialist role, I think this could work.
All right, we got less than 2 minutes.
Even mature guys don't.
Let me throw. We're talking small forwards here. Let me throw one here that really excites a lot of people. It's definitely exciting me these past few weeks because I usually don't watch a lot of Milwaukee Bucks games.
Is it Man Crush Mondays already?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Giannis Antetokounmpo. I refuse to call him the Greek freak. Nope. I'm going for the proper noun. Giannis Antetokounmpo, man. I got to say, the monster games these past few weeks, a pair of triple-doubles, I'm tasty for that. And just young guy with just, the floor coverage he does with those steps, man, the Euro step, it's fantastic. I just want to throw out a couple of phrases here, and I want you guys to kind of go around the room and pick which one is most accurate for Mr. Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Is Giannis highest ceiling of any player in the NBA?
Under what age?
Wait, what age?
I'll get to that in a second. High ceiling. Let's just go ceiling. Because obviously we're assuming young guys.
Okay.
Most improved player this year. Best current foreign player. Most underrated player.
Wait, what's foreign? Foreign
born. How about that? Like a national team on another country. How about something like that?
Okay.
Best young player.
Well, it's between him and Andre Blatch.
21 below.
Okay.
Most improved. Most improved.
Okay.
Most improved player. Ooh, McCollum.
He's not the most improved player. He's not the most improved player. That's McCollum.
Okay.
He is not the best foreign player. That's, I guess, Andrew Wiggins. Is there others? I mean.
Man, I don't know if Giannis.
All right, how about this?
He doesn't have the highest upside. That's Big Cat. Karl Anthony Towns has the highest upside by far. He could be.
So give me most underrated. Come on, the guy plays Milwaukee.
Underrated. We can look at that a little bit, possibly, maybe, but the other ones, no.
Brad, take it home so we can end this.
Look, I'm just going to say that he has the highest upside given his physical attributes, athleticism, and the fact that he's 21. I know you love Cat, and Cat's incredible, but this guy has the potential to be Durant 2.0.
What's his name?
How dare you?
Quickly. Brad, we got to get out here. What's his name, Brad? Come on, quickly.
He's Greek freak.
Oh, how dare you. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we got the fourth quarter. That's right. Fourth quarter when we come back. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. We are at quarter number 4, and we are taking the direction from Jinno Rufino now, who is in Manila, Philippines. Jinno, you got 12 minutes on the clock. What's up, bud?
Thanks, Mo. I want to use this quarter to talk about the Houston Rockets. The Rockets currently 8th in the playoff standings, and they won today, and they're 30-31 right now, and they're trying to hold off the Utah Jazz and possibly, maybe just possibly, keep away the Kings, the Nuggets, and the Pelicans, who are still mathematically possible making that 8th spot in the Western Conference. And the reason why I want to talk about the Rockets is, well, a few things. Before the season started, a lot of people, a lot of experts, a lot of analysts thought that the Rockets would be among the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. They thought that James Harden would come back in MVP form. He said he was the MVP last year. It didn't quite turn out to be that way in the beginning of the season. And they didn't win as many games as they should have. And the other day...
They fired their coach.
They fired their coach as well.
Bye-bye.
Early on in the season. And the other day, they're arguably the second best player on that team, Dwight Howard, said that he was ready to move to the Milwaukee Bucks, basically saying he won't pick up the player option for next season. So my question is this. You're battling for your playoff life right now. You're in 8th spot in the Western Conference, and you're trying to you're trying to keep the Jazz away and some other teams away from that 8th spot in the playoffs. So why why would you come out and say that you were looking to move to another team come the trade deadline?
He sounds a little unhappy to me, and it sounds like the kid at the birthday party who opened up the big box and inside was a gift certificate.
This is just a continuation from last quarter's topic. He's playing with James Harden. Of course, he's unhappy there.
But he's not happy there. But they're in the middle of a playoff push.
Wait, didn't Dwight Howard just fire his agent? Isn't there a number of things going on right now with Dwight Howard that kind of raises a little bit of an eyebrow, and you sort of think to yourself, not only is Dwight Howard not happy in Houston, but I'm not even sure these other teams in the NBA that are contending necessarily want this guy in their locker room anymore.
I think you're going to have to want him. Listen, I know you guys are not big fans of Dwight Howard, and I said this weeks and weeks ago, kind of towards the beginning of the season. He does step it up. I really kind of have to give him a little bit of credit.
It's not about him being a player and a productive player and an actual meaningful member of a contender. It's not about Dwight Howard, the athlete, the NBA player. This is about Dwight Howard's choice to say these things, to hurt his reputation, or to do things that actually harm his team's ability to be competitive right now. Like, you don't want distractions when you're trying to lock down that 8th spot.
Sure.
Houston shouldn't be in this position, and that's Jinno's point. Jinno's point is simply stating that Howard is actually distracting his team to the point where it may cause more dysfunction. You don't want to be doing that.
But is it really Howard's fault? Again, not to defend him. He's not a favorite player or anything, but I mean, come on. It started from the beginning. This team looked like they were cursed from day
one.
One.
Okay, say there's a split,
There's meme after meme of James Harden not putting any effort on the defensive end. How do you expect your team to
so we
really
talked about Melo and
Linsanity,
right? We talked about Melo and Linsanity. There was clearly a split there, or a fractioning of the locker room, whatever the case may be. Now, if you're Daryl Morey and you've got to choose between Harden and Howard moving forward, because clearly they can't coexist. They're no Westbrook and Durant. They just don't know how to get along. They just don't like each other to that extent. They're not bros in the old school sense. You got to move one of them.
Of course I'm moving D12, but who am I going to pair up with Harden? Who's going to like James Harden? A guy who plays zero defense, who's mocked.
Isn't that the point? Isn't this less about Howard and more about Harden?
Absolutely.
Isn't that essentially what's really going on here?
Right, because if you have a team that's
Houston's
underperforming,
real problem is the beard.
Right, you blame James Harden. He's your best player.
See, Jinno, is that what's going on?
But the thing is,
guys,
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
No, guys, I just, speaking of Dwight Howard, I just have a few words I want to throw out there about Dwight Howard. You tell me what most makes sense. Is he the biggest loser? Is he the worst crybaby, or does he have the most awkward sense of humor in the NBA? You tell me which one it fits in. All three. I agree. All three. I just can't stand this guy. You guys can say his merits all he wants. He steps up here and there. This guy, enough is enough for this guy. He's the biggest distraction is the real answer, and he continues to be each and every year and gets coaches fired. He's a loser.
No, Mo, I get the fact that that he steps up when he's and he has remained professional on the basketball court. He has produced when he's playing on the court, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But the I just don't understand why you would say something like this late into the season and after the trade deadline, and when you're trying to get that 8th spot, you shouldn't say anything. You should just let the season ride out. Who knows? They are still so talented on that team that they could possibly push, whether they're going to land in the 7th or the 8th or maybe even the 6th spot in the Western Conference. They can actually challenge whether it's OKC, San Antonio, or Golden State, because they are that talented.
From what I recall, it's not like he was being interviewed by the press and said it. It was a private conversation he was having on the court with somebody, and they kind of just overheard. So, I mean, saying this to somebody while on the court is a stupid move. Is it an official statement? No, it's not.
Are you his agent, Mo?
He is now.
No, I'm just giving you the facts, man. The guy wasn't. It's not like he was post game saying this.
You just have to be careful in this day and age if you're a pro athlete.
Sure.
People pick up anything. I mean, but he really feels it now, whether it's private or not. So it's Donald, whatever. Sterling's comments were private. You have to watch out. If you really feel it, though, it just shows that.
Right. The point here is that Howard, if he has a problem, should address the issue inside the locker room. Clearly they don't have a real coach. Clearly they don't have a direction. Jinno, I'm sure you're going to bring this up in a minute, but they've just dumped the point guard who was supposed to be their savior. They've brought in someone from a foreign league that's been in and out of the NBA, and if they think that Michael Beasley is going to be their answer in any shape, way, or form, I just don't like the direction this team's trending, and I really think that they have to seriously step back and look at what they've got here. It looks like a really, really dysfunctional locker room and roster, and it just doesn't seem like.
But since day one.
Well, no, but after last year's Western Conference Finals, it looked like they I guess assumed they were just going to coast into this season and perform the same way. And of course, the NBA is more competitive than that, and you can't just sort of expect anything day in and day out. But that doesn't mean that these guys shouldn't be adults and grow up and talk to one another and find ways to make it work. They're still exceptionally talented players.
Yes.
Dwight Howard hasn't he hasn't basically fallen off the map like Kobe has in terms of skill. So it is a case where, Howard and Harden can actually make this work, but neither of them chooses to grow up and actually accept their roles and actually find a way to make this, productive on the court. Because if they've got problems off the court, it's going to manifest on the court. That's just the way nature of the pro sports and the way these friendships and whatever work.
And Kobe and Shaq figured out how to win 3 championships together. These two just
yeah, but then they also figured out how to backstab each other and blow it up.
But these two ain't Kobe and Shaq. You talk about talent, they ain't Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, that's blasphemous. Don't mention them in the same conversation again.
They ain't even close.
All right. So I mean, you mentioned Brad. You mentioned the other players I was going to mention on this quarter, and it's the Rockets dropped. Bought out, I should say, Ty Lawson. Right. They basically their biggest acquisition in the offseason. And a lot of people are saying it's one of the biggest moves in the offseason because they're bringing in another
that's why,
ball
as you
handler.
said, we were all predicting them to be top 3 in the West because we thought Lawson was going to be their answer at point guard.
What a joke that was.
Because, I mean, for his career, Ty Lawson has been averaging 14 points per game and 6 assists per game. And in his career in Houston Rockets, that dipped to a career low 5.8 points per game and 3.4 assists. I mean, this guy can still play.
And 7 turnovers a game.
Okay. Right. He can still play. Obviously, he couldn't coexist with James Harden, who's also a ball-dominant guy. Ty Lawson's also a ball-dominant guy. So, I mean, this guy, Ty Lawson, is this kind of like an addition by subtraction by the Rockets? I mean, we saw this last year when Detroit let go of Josh Smith. They started, performing better. And it's I wonder if
absolutely, Gino. Sometimes this is the case where you have a talent and it looks good on paper, then the chemistry's not there. You've got to drop the guy. You've got to figure out a way to make this work. But what's interesting here is they drop Lawson. They bring back Josh Smith. They sign Beasley. They have problems from top to bottom. And yet nobody really wants to address what the issue here is, and that's James Harden. And so if you're Houston, maybe the actual solution is to not trade Howard, but to trade Harden and to see if you can get a package out of this, get 4 players in return. I'm sure there's a number of teams that would love to have Harden. Maybe he needs the sea change. Maybe it's not everybody else, because if you've got 7 different players on this roster that all have the same problem, maybe that's where you go and address this issue. You don't look at it like, well, we're going to lose Howard and then we can sort of make it up. I mean, maybe you inverse it.
We're at the point where we're trading Blake Griffin and James Harden now. Are we just getting
look, there you go. You just answered it. Swap them for each other. That's
pretty good. Let's do it right now. Chris Paul will be happy about that.
There you go.
Harden's not going anywhere. Come on.
DeAndre and Dwight Howard together. That's going to be awesome, right?
Okay.
But Harden might not go anywhere, but I don't think for now, maybe currently as we speak today, but I think Brad's got a good point, man. When you think about some of the players that they've brought in, some of the system that they've been trying to implement here, and James Harden's presence drains everybody. Man, Ty Lawson was a 15-9 point guard last year. Sure, he's got alcohol problems, off court that maybe played into his ineffectivity this year, but the guy can still play, and listen, he's 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, that's minutes played in the last 3 games.
So this is what we're doing, though. This guy almost wins the MVP last year, and they make it to the Western Conference Finals, and we're doing this. I know it's been a season,
but Chris, you brought this up. No, you've brought this up on the show. James Harden showed up this season out of shape, not ready for NBA play, and then when he got to training camp, what happened? He seemed to be a really disruptive force to everyone else on the team. He wanted it, and I feel like James Harden in his head wants to be LeBron. He wants to be GM, coach, star, everything for this team. And I think part of the problem is
one season, one bad season. This is a problem with the NBA.
No, but it's not just a bad. Okay, the guy still puts up numbers, but what I'm talking about here is when you see your star player not even putting an effort on the defensive end, it goes from a bad defensive player to a no defensive player. Man, there's no way in hell I'm going to stay on this team.
But you have to eat a season in the NBA instead of firing the coach, doing this trade. Eat a season.
Right, that's it. Right, that's your point. You've got to eat the season. The season's not working out. It's a failed year. You've got to swallow those lumps or whatever those pills, whatever the case may be. But you need to have the right front office personnel in place to manage all of that, and that's what the Rockets are also missing.
All your points are saying are correct. But a season like this, especially after last season, you need to eat it and see what happens. And
but you talked about this. But just to quickly finish on this note, Chris, because I'm sure we've got Jinno wants to get to something else here, but I just look at it like this. If you've got, these guys all having these separate issues, all having these, and it culminates in this one lost season, and you say that they're losers and they can't do all this stuff, what makes you think that next year's going to improve and it's going to instantly be better? I think these are the kinds of people.
You got to stick with your superstar, number one. You got to build around the superstar if it means other guys, but you can't get rid of your superstar. See what happens another season. Got to eat one. Got to keep your superstar there. See what happens. He is MVP caliber. Whether he tries or not on the defensive end. You got to eat this season. The NBA is out of control when they don't.
Before we go, I'm going to keep it with the Rockets here. What do you guys? Brad, you said your piece about Michael Beasley joining the team. He averaged 30 points per game in the China League. But,
please.
Mo and Chris.
I think Mo averaged 30 points in the
China League. Who cares about the
I want to know. I want to know your thoughts about Beasley joining the team. I know the time is up, but really quickly, Mo and Chris.
Yeah, we'll call timeout. You'll call timeout. Put him in and on the clock. Go, Brad, Chris. You go first. One of you guys.
I think he's going to help them offensively, but I just don't see how he's going to help them to be a solution for the long term or for their playoff chase.
Chris?
Yeah.
It's not even duct tape. It's not even duct tape. It's patchwork with duct tape. It's not even that. It's not.
It's sticky rice. It came from China. Sticky rice.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Mo.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Nothing
I say
at all.
Fat to this move, not going to do anything.
All right, cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
Especially where? What position? In that front court? Of course not. All right, we got to get out of here. The full court report, 4 quarters are done, but we're going to take a minute or two here to go around, and I guess thank you guys for continuing to support our show. Please follow us on Twitter. It's at Full Court Report. And then kind of just individually, we have our social media accounts. I'll start with you, Jinno in Manila. Where can people find you and get in touch with you?
It's at Jinno Rufino, JINNORUFINO, and that's on Twitter and on Instagram.
Now, I know that it kills you that you weren't able to recognize D'Angelo Russell's 30-plus point game, so maybe I'll give you 10 seconds now.
He had another good game today. He had another good game today, but he had 20-something points and then about 8 assists. But they lost. They lost to the Nuggets. But
it's not his fault.
he's had a good couple of he's free reign now. So he's Byron Scott has run new offensive sets, and he's
you
letting
can actually
D'Angelo
follow Jinno on Twitter and get minute by minute updates.
Guys, let's start up the overtime. 5 minutes. Let's get into this.
All right. So, Brad, or Chris, why don't you go first? Since Brad's next to me. Chris, your social media.
As always, at Not Bill Walton, and I also want to apologize to everyone out there who follows my Twitter feeds. I don't tweet anymore at not Chuck Barkley, which I did in the past, and it just comes down to I just don't watch enough NBA games to do it. So
there you go.
All right, Brad, what's up, man?
You can follow me at Backpack Baller. My journey across the U.S. continues, and it's good to be here with Mo in studio.
All right, and we'll see, again, Brad here all month long. So we're going to do probably about, 8 episodes, here side by side. This is going to be good. So I'll see you guys. Again, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. It's at DJ Mo Twister. We'll see you on Sunday night, U.S. time. And I want to say a shout out to a very good friend of mine, Giannis Antetokounmpo, man. Thanks for listening to the show. Like he really is. That's right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.